Welcome. This is our first video on how to make Zool. There's a book about this called The Game Maker's Companion, written a while back in the old version of Game Maker, and so I figured we'd give it a try here in the new version, see if we can get this to work. I did some work here before. I just want to go over the work I've done so that you can get up to speed, and then we'll continue on from here in subsequent videos. There's a lot that's changed here in Game Maker Studio 2, and so first thing we have to do is create the sprites, and so I've done that already, and I just want to go over some of the settings just to be clear. Now the resources are available out in the shared folder, but the way I would import it, I would go in here, I would say import, and my resources are, where did I put them? Let me go up a level. It's kind of a strange open screen. Very odd. I wonder why it's there. Let me go up a level. Yeah, so what I've done is just imported, go and find the sprite files. Some are animated like this one here, some are not. The first one is not animated. This is the standing sprite. And the way I created this is I imported the sprite, and then I want to make sure that I set the sprite origin to 24 and 24. That's the center of the sprite. I would not use middle center. I'd actually say custom, because not all the sprites are going to be 24 by 24, but we still want the origin of all the sprites to be the center of Zool, regardless of the size of the sprite. So we're going to make, what I would suggest is making this first one, getting the settings right, and then just duplicating it to create all the other ones, just so that the settings are correct. Now the other important thing when you're creating these Zool sprites is all the collision masks, we want to have the same collision box, or the same hit box. So let's look at that real quick. Here's the collision mask. We want to set it to manual. We want to say rectangle. And again, it's super important that we keep all of these the same for all the different types of Zools. The coordinates are 14 for left, 6 for top, 34 for right, and bottom is 42. Make sure to set the mode to manual and set the type to rectangle. And then I think you have all you need there. And then just to create the next one, you would right click and just say duplicate, and it will create another sprite with those exact same settings. And all you have to do is import the next sprite. So I have Zool standing to the right, Zool standing to the left. I have walking right, which is an animated sprite. Here's walking left. Here's falling right and left. These are non-animated sprites. But if you go and look at them, you can see that the collision mask is still the same. Same numbers, same coordinates. Jumping, same thing, not animated. Climbing is a little bit different. Notice the size of the sprite is not 48 by 48, but 48 by 46. So again, it's important to keep that origin right in the center of Zool. So when you're copying it, just be careful of that. The collision mask again stays the same, doesn't change. I only did these bunch because this is all we're going to do in the first part. There's going to be more Zool actions perhaps later, and we'll add those sprites as we need them. The next thing that's kind of difficult getting started is in the original book they give you the kind of a starter game that has all the resources set up, but unfortunately we don't have that for Zool, so we have to set them up ourselves, which is kind of tedious, but it's also informative, because if you're doing a real game, or if you're trying to make a commercial game, which we're trying to make here, this was actually a commercial game at one point. And what's the whole process of creating a commercial level game? The goal here, or the hope is that you you get to see all the work behind of how to create a commercial quality game. Luckily, all the artwork's done for us. For me, that's the hard part, is how do you get the artwork done. You have to find an artist that's good at doing computer game animation. All right, so the next challenge is the layers for the room. If we go to our room, you'll see that my room has been started. Okay, here's my room, but the question is, how did I create all these things? Is really what we're using is basically these things called layers. Now, in the old version of GameMaker, they use this thing called depth, and they still have that concept here in GameMaker Studio 2, but the majority of the backgrounds, or it's either a background or it's a tile set layer over the top of the background, and then there's an instances layer as well. So in this game, I think the best way to set it up is we'll have 4 layers. Some of these layers you'll be able to walk in front of with the main character, and some of the layers you'll walk behind. Let me just show you the layers one by one. Our first layer is our background layer. All right, and our background layer, I wonder what that is. Not sure what that is. Very strange. I don't know what that corresponds to. Let me just turn that on and see. I don't know what that is. I'm going to take those out. So let me just delete those real quickly. There we go. Okay. So our background layer is just a color. Okay. So I think when you start the game, background is already one of the default layers that are on there. And all you do is click in this box here, and then you can choose a color. I suggest choosing a color that's kind of bluish, maybe a little purplish, but light, not too dark. It doesn't matter that much. I don't know. I can't remember if this ever peeks through or not. It might. So choose a color like that, kind of a sky color, because we're gonna have clouds in the background eventually. Now that's your furthest layer back. If you look at the layer settings, you can see that the depth is set to 350. We're not going to mess with these depth numbers directly. We're going to just layer the different layers from back to front. So the thing furthest back should be listed last on the list. Now the other thing that comes with the game automatically when you open is the instances layer. But we'll talk about it in a second. The next layer is the tiles that you want the character to either walk in front of or to never walk in front of it at all. This would be your foreground tile layer. Now if you look here, when I turn that on, you can see I have these things in my. Oh, this is not foreground. Sorry, I got it backwards. This is the background. This is right. There's the background, and then the next layer just in front of the background. And these are the things you want to be able to walk in front of in our thing. And we want to be able to walk in the front of this shorter candy cane, these little gelatin mold things, and then these lollipops and things that we would find on the top of platforms. Here's another gelatin thing. And then our instances layer, well, I don't have any instances yet. Well, I guess I did put some in. Well, we'll talk about that later. But then there's this tile set, which is the foreground tile set, which you want the character to be able to walk in front of. Let's see if I can get that right. Okay, so here's the smaller candy cane, right? So we want to be able to walk in front of that one, but behind this one. This is kind of like a little gateway at the edge of the room. And so if I shut off that, you can see that that's a background one, and this one's a foreground one. So we should, if we put our instances layer in between those two, we should be able to walk in between those two candy canes, giving the effect that we're kind of in a 3D environment. So that's the layering. The question is, how do you get these layers on there? This is kind of odd because I'm going to zoom out a bit here, kind of show you the size of the room. The default is too small, so you're going to have to change these numbers here if you could. So I'm having a little trouble with the mic. Keeps syncing on me. Okay, so the width is going to be 2048 and the height's going to be 640. So if you can change that to begin with, that would be good. Next question is, how do you get these layers in there? Well, we're going to need some tiles. And so we haven't created our tile set yet. So let's take a look at our tile set. Now, for both the first tile layer and the second tile layer, we're going to use the same tile set, and that's this one here, Tile Suite. And I'll put this out in the shared folder so you can grab it. I had to excise this out of the old GameMaker game, but basically these are all the tiles you need to create the Candyland level of this game, Zool. It's a tile set. It's a little bit different than the old version of GameMaker. You have to create a sprite that has the tile set in it, and then use this sprite to create a tile set. So here's the sprite, and then what you do is you go into tile sets, and here and you say create tile set, and when you do, it asks you what your tile set is, and you specify that. The other thing you do is you specify these tile properties. Now, this happened to just kind of pop in there and seemed like it worked first time, but it was able to figure out that our tile width is 16, our tile height is 16, and then the output border X and Y were 2. I'm not sure what those refer to, though. I'm still trying to figure that out. But it breaks it up into a nice grid, and we can use this to build our room. So let's take a look on how we might do that. So how do you use the tile set to create the room? How do you use that tile set? Let's go to our room again. Here's our room, and we have to choose which layer we're putting things on. So the way you choose a layer is you, like, say this is our, let's see, what layer is that? That's our foreground tile layer. This is our background tile layer. I think it's probably better to do that one first. We want to set the grid on. So let's do that one. I'm just going to focus on this layer, which is the last layer that gets drawn in the Z order. And the question is, how do we go about putting this on there? I'm a little confused about why we're not seeing our grid. It's not locked, but our grid isn't showing up. So I'm toggling the grid on and off, but nothing's happening. So I'm going to pause here and take a look. So our grid is missing because we were zoomed out a little too far. If we zoom in a little bit, we can get this to zoom in. Then our grid magically appears. Okay. So what we're trying to do is mimic what we see in the original room. So looking at the old version of GameMaker, you can see the room's got a lot more stuff in it than I have so far. We'll put this other stuff in later as we add more objects. So this is the completed room. But the part we're concerned about is, this main part, these big blocks of, I guess this is fruitcake or something, and here's another block and another block here. We're just trying to get the main structural pieces in, maybe these decorative pieces here in the background. We want to make this exactly this same level. It's got lots of parts to it. I focused originally on this first part, but I'm going to take a look. I want to stop maybe right about here, making the level, and then we're going to work our way up, if we can, to see if we can get these platforms up in the air going. These are objects that we're going to add later, but these main platform pieces I'm going to try to get put in place. Alright, so how do you go about doing that? Well, we need to be careful on how we measure stuff. We see that when I put in these base parts, I used tile sets over here to do that. Let me show you how I did that. Let me move this out of the way. And say I wanted to grab some of that. I'm going to click and drag a section here, and then notice it allows me to drag that section. I can put that section anywhere. Vertically, you can put these pieces anywhere you like, and it doesn't look raggedy or anything. We're trying to make it look somewhat random. We don't want a pattern going, like say I have a pattern kind of going right there, so maybe I want to break that up a little bit, say like that, and then I just click on it, and it puts that block of tiles in there. We've got to make sure we're on the right tile layer. We're on layer 2, which is our foreground tile set, which is what we want. We don't want the character to be walking in front of it. To put the candy cane in, let me drag this down. Hang on a second. Let me figure out how to move this. Okay, there we go. Like this candy cane, you can see that candy cane's a lot taller, right? And so when I put that in, let me grab the whole thing here. You know, if I wanted to put one next to it, notice it's not tall enough, but I placed that there, and then I grabbed a piece of these two and then extended it, put it there, and that seemed to work okay. This edge piece I just grabbed from here. I put that there. So this part I just grabbed, I guess, the first 5, and I plopped that there. You can see it there. To put those edge pieces in. Here I just extended it a little bit, made it a little bit taller. I grabbed a couple more from the edge. And then just for decorative pieces, I put right along the top, I grabbed like these things, put a little bit of icing hanging off the edge. Makes it look a little bit more believable. So like that one I didn't quite get. And then maybe I grab a few here and maybe there, just to make it look like the icing's overhanging a bit. I might put one, well, maybe not there, but and so far that looks pretty good. If we look back at the original, then we say, well, here's the original. If I count the number of squares between the side and where I start this thing, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. And then how far up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So about 15, 16? 16 up and 7. Alright, so I'm going to put that back. And it's looking like they're using this. Something like this part. So I'm going to grab that. And I'm going to count 7 over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's 7. And then if I count it from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16. So I'm thinking that first part is there. Just guessing. And then we ask, well, how wide is it? How wide does it need to be? Well, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's 10 wide. So far we have 4. So if we grab these 4, well, actually we want to do these. Yeah, it's too much. It's only 3 tall. So I'm going to grab these instead. Question is that 10. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, that looks about right. Okay. So that's the underside of our first platform. Looking back at our original, now we have these little candy things. And you can see that here, right? So I'm going to grab those 3 and we'll use that as our top right here, and I think they did something like, we want to keep that same pattern going, so maybe like that. It looks okay. Does it have to be exact? I think the placement we want exact, but the actual colors I don't think matter much. Going back then, so this part that Zool's never going to get in front of, but this gelatin thing and these candy canes, we do want Zool to be able to walk in front of. We also want the monsters, like this monster, to walk in front of it. So that needs to be put on a different layer. So how do we put on that different layer? Well, we have to switch layers first. We want to do our, this is our background layer. So we're going to switch layers here. We're going to turn that one on. You can see I have some things already there. But if we look at the original, we see that we have an orange gelatin mold, kind of 3 in, kind of centered on that platform. So I'm going to find that gelatin mold over here. I have to pull this out. There it is. So I'll grab that, and I'm going to place it right here on top. We want to make sure we get the right layer. Ooh, it's not centered. Maybe our platform isn't wide enough. Okay, so I think I maybe made it one too skinny. Let's double check our original. Yeah, it looks like I'm off by 1. So I'm going to put another one of these. So maybe that. And then repair that inside part. That. It's not overwriting. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. So let me take that off. So you got to be careful when you're doing this. If you get the layers wrong, it really messes things up. It's this layer we want to make the active layer, and we're trying to replace, that edge there. So that's the right layer, and then I grab this little corner, maybe this corner here, pop that there. That look okay? I guess it looks okay. No, I still have the same problem though. Got to put that there, and I'll grab this, and then replace that corner piece and these 2 bottom pieces. And I think we have the gelatin centered, and we have our platform in the right place. And we did it on the correct layer. Okay, so that's tiles 2, which is our foreground tile set. We were working on the background tile set. I also noticed that we have some candy canes that we need to put on the level. If we look at the original, you see there's 2 candy canes. There's one there and there, and we want the character to walk in front of it, so we want this on this background tile. So I'm going to grab this candy cane, and we'll plop it here, and then we'll get the other one and plop it there. So I like this new tile set editor. It works a lot better than the old one. So we're just doing the left half of the screen. So I've shown you the background layer, the foreground tile set layer, the background tile set layer, and the instance layer is going to be in between those 2. I think that's all I need to show in the video. You can do the rest by comparing it with the previous version of the level. You'll have to have another platform up here similar to the one down here. It looks like it's 3 tall of these things, and then another layer of whatever those are, lifesavers or whatever. And then here it looks like these might be at different layers. This might be the foreground layer, this is the background, and you would walk in between those perhaps. You can decide how you want to set that up. Here's another platform. So I'd maybe do, just to start off with, I'd do this platform, this one, and all the way up to maybe about here on the room, and we'll do the rest of the room in another video. But for now, let's just do that much of the room. I think that gives us enough to work with. So I'm going to stop the video here because I'm trying to make the videos a little shorter. And the next video is going to be about how to create this next layer, which is the instances layer. What does that look like? Well, if I shut these off and turn on instances, you can see basically this is what the real objects in the room look like. This is the actual platform, and this is a wall object. So I'm going to show you how to create those in the next video.